So this is Going Under by Jay Wilburn. Kyle Warner's last memory was going to be the guy setting up the IV bag for his first dose of anesthesia. He hadn't even gotten it yet, but this was all going to be erased after he came to from the transplant surgery. Depending on the angle, the chemical looked icy clear or a little rusty. As it was hooked to his IV, it started to go to work without him realizing. Kyle asked, "What if it doesn't knock me out?" The guy laughed and said, We win every time." Kyle's eyes rolled up in his head a bit, but then he said, "I don't know, I'm very logical." The guy laughed again and said, "You're going to be a fun one." Kyle said goodbye to his wife, but would not remember that either. She whispered something in his ear, but that too would be lost to memory. All right, I was about to change something. I can't do that. This has already been published. All right. Once they were in the operating room, the team had him scoot off the gurney onto the metal table. A new anesthesiologist took over from the first guy, but he remained in the room too. She had been standing off to the side observing during the first IV, but had gone unnoticed by the Warners. They normally noticed everything, but were under a great deal of stress this early morning. Everyone went around and introduced themselves as the second dose was hooked into his IV. Then they prepared the oxygen. Kyle's eyes never focused on anyone in particular. "If this kidney doesn't work out, I have a spare set up." Laughter passed around the room. Dr. Esther Eckerd ignored it. The ex vivo perfuser was still doing its work on the kidney that had been flown in just that morning from a young man riding a motorcycle without a helmet, a sure way to become an organ donor in a hurry. "Danny, can you adjust the light my way a little?" Danny obliged. Kelly, Esther's favorite anesthesiologist, continued her work, talking quietly with the new guy working with her. Kyle kept going like everyone was participating in his discussion. "Yeah, he has a twin sister. I dated her for a while back in college. She'll give me a kidney too." "Who is he talking about?" Danny asked. "No telling at this point," Kelly said. "He'll be counting himself out soon." "Hopefully his kidney will work fine, though. I don't want to go back on dialysis." Kyle continued unfazed by the crosstalk. Dr. Eckerd said, "We're going to do our best, Mr. Warner, I promise." Danny tilted his head and looked at the machine pumping through the donor kidney. "Did he know the donor?" "The donor died in an accident in another city," Esther said. "There's no way he knows who it is." "We were friends back when we were kids," Kyle said. "Him, his sister, me, all of us." "Are we getting close to ready, Kelly?" Esther asked. "Almost there, Dr. Eckerd. We'll have him on oxygen in a moment." "Just relax, Mr. Warner," she told the patient. Kyle kept talking. "We wanted to see what it was like to see someone die." The people in the room exchanged looks. "Take it easy, Mr. Warner," she said. "You don't know what you're saying right now." He kept talking. "We didn't know who it was going to be, but she was the one who decided at the last minute it should be her twin brother, and I went along with it. I think the other kids would have done whatever the two of us told them to. That's what I think." "What's he talking about?" Danny asked. "Never mind." Dr. Eckerd turned to Kelly. "Can we get him under before he says much more?" "It's going to take a minute," Kelly said. "I need to watch his vitals." "Can we get him on oxygen at least?" "Not yet," Kelly said. "Give me a moment." Kyle was fine to finish his story. "So we lured him out into the woods." That sounds so sinister, doesn't it? I guess that's what we did, though. "We pretended we were going to play down by the creek. It was really just a nasty runoff area. Probably exposed us all to all sorts of carcinogens when we were kids. The creek was swollen from the extra rain the previous week." Oh, that's a typo. I can't help but to not fix that. "You don't need to tell us this," Esther said. Kyle kept going, though, and the surgical transplant team stood by listening. "We almost chickened out. It almost didn't happen, but then she grabbed my shoulder and nodded. That was all I needed. I would do anything for her, even before we started dating years later. I gave him a shove, but he didn't fall. He just turned and punched me across my jaw, almost knocked me out. She joined me and we took him off his feet, but he kept fighting. The other kids followed our lead and we got his head underwater." Danny looked around the room. "What is he saying? Is this real?" "Stop talking, Mr. Warner," Esther demanded. If he heard her or understood her, Kyle didn't show it. "It took him a long time to stop moving. If we had just pushed him in then, it might have all been easy. Everything might have been different for all of us, but we decided to get a few tools and see what he looked like on the inside." "Oh my God," Danny backed away. "Stay where you are," Dr. Eckerd ordered. We used pliers, saws, blades, hammers, screwdrivers, whatever we could find. We got his clothes off of him and threw them in the water before we opened him up. We were able to wash off the tools and ourselves in the river. Each of us took a piece home. Most of the kids threw their pieces away later, but I know me and his sister kept ours. I didn't know what it was called at the time, but the both of us kept a kidney each. I still have mine in a jar in my special hiding place. It's as hard as a rock and shriveled up, probably like my real kidneys now. Didn't he? Danny whispered, "What are we going to do?" "Our jobs," the surgeon said. "Kelly, still working, Dr. Eckert. We'll be ready soon." Kyle said, "Most of the kids went home before we were done. We told them what story to stick to, but not to tell it until they were asked. Me and his sister took him apart in pieces and let him wash away. They found his shirt later. It snagged on a branch and was torn, but had no blood traces on it. Lucky for us, they found a shoe too, but nothing else. We were lucky. He wasn't my last and not hers either. By the time we were together, we both knew how to really hide a body." "I can't do this," Danny said. "You will, and you're not leaving this room. No one is," she said. Kyle closed his eyes, and everyone hoped that was it, but no luck. "We did 7 together before I did her. I was real careful that it was a weekend we were far away from each other, as far as everyone else knew. Her parents blamed me for both their deaths. The cops looked into it, but if they did suspect me, they eventually gave up. I had help, you see." "I'll knock him out myself," Danny said, "just to make him stop. Be professional, Danny. We have a job to do, regardless of whether this is real or not." "How could it not be real? He may have just seen it on TV, and he's talking about it as he goes out." Danny looked to Kelly for confirmation, but she seemed absorbed in her work. The new guy working with her met Danny's eyes briefly and shook his head ever so slightly. Excuse me. Kyle said, "I had met and started running around with my future wife at that point. She had things, skills. She did things my girlfriend never dreamed of, even as crazy as she was. We planned it all out together, and we got away with it again and again. I'm sort of the impulsive one. She's smart, and that's why we never get caught. We joked that we had taken so many kidneys out of so many bodies over the years that at least a few of those should have matched me if we could have gotten them in here without you guys noticing. I was thinking, after this is over, my wife and I need to celebrate. Before I came in here, she whispered to me that..." Kyle trailed off as Kelly fixed the oxygen mask over his face. She said, "Count backward for me from 20. Kyle didn't count, but he went out mumbling. Danny mumbled himself. "Thank God we can't understand him anymore, at least." Dr. Eckert said, "Everyone listen. We have no evidence that what he said was true. Even if it was, we still have a job to do. As far as I'm concerned, he was mumbling nonsense. Nothing we need to act upon. If we believed everything everyone said as they were going under, we'd be putting half our patients in jail after surgery." "I don't know about that," Danny said. "Do you understand what I said?" she asked. Danny nodded. The others mumbled their consent. Kyle went out, and the transplant surgery was a success.